What's up everybody, Jared here with carbuzz.com, and today Toyota has flown me out to Utah to drive its new 2023 GR Corolla out on the track. This is a car that I have been dying to drive for years before it even existed, because over in Europe they sold a version of this car called the GR Yaris. It was basically the same engine and drivetrain that you got in this car, but in the much smaller Yaris, which they no longer sell in America. Now they have brought the drivetrain over in a Corolla because Americans are much more likely to buy a larger compact car like the Corolla than something like the Yaris, and I think the recipe is going to work because we have not seen a hot hatch quite like this in a really long time. So let's go ahead and talk about it. The one that I'm driving here, this black model, is the Core, which is the base version of the GR Corolla. It's going to come in 3 trims. So you've got your Core, you've got the Circuit Edition for 2023 only, and you've got the Morizo Edition, which is like the most track focused. We'll focus on that a little bit later. You can see we have similar front end styling as other 23 Corollas with those really cool headlights, but this is wider. They gave it these really cool wide fender flares that just give it that old school 80s Group B rally look. I love it. I love this big grille at the bottom with the little Gazoo Racing badge, and I'm loving these wheels as well. They look like these really cool, I think it's 15 spoke. We've got 18-inch wheels, 235 tires. These are Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires, which is a serious tire if you know anything about tires. But if you step up to the Morizo Edition, you can get really sticky Cup 2s, which are just great. Again, I'm loving these boxy fender flares. They look so cool. This is an all-wheel drive car, so you have your GR4 badge in there in the sill, which is quite cool. And then here at the back, you can just really see that width. Look how wide this looks compared to a standard Corolla hatchback. Now down here, we have 3 exhaust pipes, which is such a unique thing. You don't really see 3 exhaust pipes very often. This center one is going to be open at idle at speeds of under 20 miles an hour, and then when you get above 4,500 RPM, it kicks open again to give you a little bit more noise. And I love the way that this little engine sounds. We'll talk a little bit about that more out on the road. Everything else is going to be pretty close to what you're going to get in a normal Corolla hatchback. So if you didn't love the size of the Corolla hatchback before, they didn't really do anything to it here. This trunk is not very big. It is not very deep as well. You've got your tire inflation kit, so you do not get a spare in here. So if you have a lot of stuff to haul around, this is not the largest vehicle in this class that you can get. The Honda Civic hatchback is going to be significantly larger than this. Ditto for the back seat. I've found that the opening for the Corolla hatchback is very small. The door just doesn't open that wide, and this sill is very far forward. So if you're a much larger person trying to get back here, it is not the most comfortable thing. As you can see, I don't have a ton of legroom sitting behind myself. It is just okay, not great. Remember, this is a compact car. It is still a Corolla that we're talking about. This is all about performance, not about luxury and comfort. We do have a little 12-volt outlet here and a little USB-C so that you can charge up your devices. And then we have just kind of like this sill here where I guess you could put a phone or something like that if you're the rear passenger. But to save weight, they didn't put anything that kind of opens or closes fancy, and there is no air vents back here either. Now, if you get the Morizo Edition, you are going to completely lose the back seat of this car. There's just a big strut brace on the back, and you cannot put any kids or anything else in the back. You do get a lot of cargo space though. So now let's go ahead and talk about the front. Because we have the Core, we've got these cloth seats, which I have no problem with. I think they look really nice. We've got the GR logo here as well. They are very nicely bolstered as well. They're very comfortable. You can get heated seats as part of a package on this Core model. I believe they're standard on the Circuit Edition. But if you step up to the Circuit Edition or the Morizo, these seats are going to become suede, so a little bit nicer than the base seats that we're going to get on the Core here. We've got our GR start stop button. So I'm gonna go ahead and push the clutch because this car is of course a manual transmission. And you're going to see something new here on Corolla. Now other Corollas I believe are gonna get this as well, but we have this really nice 12.3-inch information display instead of a normal gauge cluster. So if I can clear all of the notifications on it, you can see that we have that tachometer. Let me go ahead and give it a rev. Doesn't love revving when it's just in neutral, but trust me, that's not a problem when you're out on the road driving it. You've got your boost gauge there to the left, and you have your traction. So this is going to show you where the power is going to be coming from the all-wheel drive system there. We do have some drive modes down here in front of the shifter, as well as our traction control button. So the drive modes are pretty cool. So right now I was in normal. Eco is going to go ahead and look the same, but if I go ahead and put it in sport mode, now you're going to see the tachometer is going to change significantly, so it's a little bit easier to read out on the track, and you also have a custom mode as well. Now you can change up what information is on here as well. So if you don't want it to be a big speedo, you can have different settings. You can change what is on the left and the right. I haven't had too much time to play around with this, but this does make it feel very premium. So I'm glad they did this. Other vehicles like the Hyundai Veloster N, Hyundai Elantra N, and Kona N do that as well. So it is nice to see Toyota go and put some nice digital gauges in this car. I think they look really cool. We also have Toyota's newest 8-inch touchscreen. So this has Toyota's latest software. Unfortunately, all of the buttons on the side to get like shortcuts to maps and things like that are gone, but it's not like a huge hindrance. You still have a volume knob, which is nice, but I did like having those physical buttons to be able to get to stuff quickly. You still do have physical climate controls though. It is automatic, but only single zone automatic. It's not dual zone. Remember, it's just a Corolla. We have a JBL audio system that I believe comes as part of the tech package on this car. So you're only going to get 6 speakers base on the core. The JBL is going to upgrade it to 8 speakers. And then if you get the Morizo to cut weight, it's going to drop you all the way down to just 2 speakers in the front. So now down here we have our GR shifter. So this shifter is going to look different if you get the Morizo edition or the Circuit edition, but this is what it looks like here on the core with this little GR logo. It's more of a circular ball. The other one is kind of more of an oval. In front of it, we have our heated seat controls, as well as our Qi wireless charger, which is a little bit far forward, and there's not a lot of space to put stuff on it besides a phone. I already mentioned the drive mode selector, and down here is the really cool knob. So this is usually your Sport Eco normal drive mode selector on a normal Corolla, but here on the GR, you can use this to send the power differently. So you can have more power going to the front, a 50-50 split with the track button, or you turn it that way to get more power to the rear, which is super easy and you can do it on the fly. I will show you more of that when we get the Corolla out on the road. So I think I've done enough talking about the Corolla on the interior. Let's go out and drive this thing. And last but not least, I wanted to show you the Morizo edition. Only 500 units for this year, but this is the most extreme version of the Corolla. We've got this really cool sort of metallic matte paint on it that looks really cool. Big difference here on the tires. Michelin Pilot Cup 2s. You can see how sticky these are with forged wheels for better weight reduction as well. Lower center of gravity because we've got a carbon fiber roof up here. This is chopped carbon fiber, not woven like you'd see on some supercars. Inside, you're going to see some differences as well, including these suede seats instead of the cloth that I showed you earlier on the core model. We also have red seat belts. These are really cool as well. You also get suede on the shifter. This is a different shifter than the core model has. It actually has Akio Toyota's signature on it as well. I really like the feel of this, and the ratios are actually different here on the Morizo as well. You've got this suede steering wheel up here with your 12 o'clock marker in red. This is a really nice feeling steering wheel as well. I actually really like the suede here, but I think the biggest thing, and maybe the reason why you wouldn't want to buy the Morizo edition, is because there is no back seat. This is all just a shelf. You have this little bar to stop stuff from rolling forward, but you can see the rear seat has been completely deleted. We have this strut bar across the side, so this is strictly a 2-seater car. All right, so now let's get the 2023 Toyota GR Corolla out on the road. And just like with the Supra, I'm not really on a road. I'm kind of on these little back roads here at this racetrack in Utah, but it is going to give me a good chance to drive the Corolla, but just kind of talk to you about the different specs that you can expect to see from this car. So under the hood, we've got a 1.6 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine. Now this is huge because this is the engine that debuted in the GR Yaris that all of my European colleagues were simply raving over. They were like, oh, this engine is so good, the Yaris is so good, you're gonna love it, ha ha ha, it sucks that you can't have it. Well, now we can have it, only in a Corolla. It's pretty much the same engine, and it is mated to a 6-speed manual transmission only with rev matching. There is no automatic or dual clutch option on this GR Corolla, which is really cool. In the version that I am driving, so in the core and the circuit versions, that's the base and the middle trim level, you're gonna get 300 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque with 25.2 PSI of boost from the turbo, which is quite a lot for a stock from the factory car. Now, if you opt for the Morizo edition, that is the most track-oriented version of this car, you're gonna get more torque. It's gonna go from 273 to 295 pound-feet of torque. Now, that might not sound like such a huge difference. Oh, they left the horsepower the same. All they did was increase the torque. Well, later in this video, I'm gonna drive the Morizo, and we're gonna see that torque number is a big deal, as is the weight, which I'll talk a little bit about more in just a little bit. So you're gonna get 26.3 PSI in the Morizo compared to 25.2 in this car. No matter which Corolla GR you choose, you're gonna get all-wheel drive. This is huge for this segment because you've got the Golf R with all-wheel drive, but it's pretty expensive. Then you have the Civic Type R, which is front-wheel drive, and you have the Hyundai Elantra N, which is not a hatchback, but it is also front-wheel drive. But this is a very unique all-wheel drive system. So you can split it 3 different ways. You can have 60% of the torque going to the front and 40 to the rear. Now that's going to be great if you're driving this in any kind of bad weather, snow, etc. Just stick it in 60-40 mode, and now you've got a ton of grip going to the front wheels. If you want to put it into its track mode, that's a 50-50 power split. So 50% of the power to the front, 50% to the rear. And it's going to give you a little bit more balanced feel to set the quickest lap times. But the absolute coolest thing that this all-wheel drive system does is you can split the power 30-70. So now you're having 70% going to the rear. So this is going to feel a lot more like a rear-wheel drive vehicle. Now the STI has offered something like this in the past, but this version in this Toyota is just really, really cool. So now I'm at the straight portion of the road, so I can go ahead and show you what 0 to 60 is like in this car with all-wheel drive. I'm gonna go ahead and put it into 50-50 track because I think that's gonna get us off the line better. Toyota is claiming a sub 5-second 0 to 60 run is what they're claiming in this. So let's go ahead, and I'm already in track mode. Let's go ahead and turn the traction control off, and let's go. I bogged that a little bit. Actually, you know what? I bogged that. So let's go ahead and try again. I'm not sure the best way to launch this. I'm just gonna floor it and drop the clutch and let's see what happens. Nope, it's gonna bog. It doesn't like that. I haven't had that much time with the car, so bear with me. We're gonna try just rolling into it, okay? There we go. Easy off the line. In a second. Very nice shifts. I love this shifter a lot. This is just the base core that we're driving as well. I do like the shifter a little better on the Morizo and Circuit editions. It has kind of that suede. It's a very different shifter mechanism as well. I do feel that that shifter is just a little bit nicer than this one. The steering, it is so communicative. It's very light, like you'd expect from a hot hatch, but I can place the car exactly where I want to place it. There's not too much body roll. This steering is so good. I'm not sure if it's quite as tight as the Elantra N, but it is really, really good control there. The exhaust note is quite good too. You might have heard there is no fake engine sound in this car. So when I put my foot down, it's real buzzy. It's very noisy in a good way. We have that cool 3-pipe exhaust. The middle section is going to open up at idle at speeds of up to 20 miles per hour. And then if I get it above 4,500 RPM, you can hear it. It opens up. You can really hear it. Almost kind of like VTEC-ish. You can kind of hear the exhaust just get a little bit louder as you cross that 4,500 RPM. Yeah, and then it makes some really good boost noises as well. And I'm loving that Toyota set me up on this little track behind here, because these roads are not like perfectly smooth like a racetrack. So it is giving me an opportunity to feel how stiff the suspension is on this car, because this is going to be a daily driver for most people. And the big problem when they released that Corolla Apex, go back and watch my Corolla Apex review. That suspension was so obnoxiously stiff. I couldn't believe that they made a Corolla that firm, firmer than most like AMG and M sports cars. I really couldn't believe it. So far, and I will have to borrow this car for a week to really see if this is the case, but so far from this experience, I don't think that the GR Corolla is going to beat you up like the Apex did. And that is something I was very much worried about in this car. So if you are going to drive it every day, I think you should stick with either this core or step up to the Circuit Edition. You're gonna get 21 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, 24 combined. Not bad when you're considering this car has 300 horsepower. And I think that the Michelin Pilot Super Sports that you get on these two lower trims are what you're gonna want for most daily driving. But let's talk about the Morizo. Named after the pseudonym for Akio Toyoda when he goes racing, the Morizo is the most track-focused version of this car. So I already mentioned that you get more torque as well, but you also get a stiffer ride. So you have 2 braces in the back of the cabin. So instead of the back seats that I showed you in this car, the Morizo is strictly a 2-seater. And it sucks that that Morizo is so cool and you're only gonna be able to enjoy it with one other person. So I could see that being kind of a problem because you're basically getting a hot hatchback that only fits 2 people like a sports car. So definitely proceed with caution if you're thinking about getting the Morizo. You also get a stiffer spring rate on the suspension. You get Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, which is like the stuff you get on like Z06s and 911 GT3 RSs. So really serious rubber on that. But you're not gonna wanna be driving that like in the winter or in the rain or anything like that. You get the forged carbon roof, which you also get on the Circuit Edition, and it's gonna save about 100 pounds over the Circuit Edition. So you're only looking at a curb weight of about 3,100 pounds on the Morizo. So a lot of big changes if you're going to be looking at that car. Now I will mention they're only going to be doing about 200, I think, Morizos for 2023, and they will bring it back next year if you're not able to snag one of the initial 200. But with the dealer markups and the rarity, it ain't gonna be easy to get the Morizo edition. So now that I've driven this out on the road, let me go ahead and hop behind the Circuit Edition on the racetrack, and then we'll get behind that Morizo. All right, so now that I have driven the GR Corolla Core out on the little street circuit, I've stepped into the Circuit Edition to drive it on the track, where I think a lot of people are going to want to take their GR Corollas. So let's see what the GR Corolla can do on a track, all right? First gear, mat it, into second, woohoo! Such a buzzy little engine, I love it so much. Right now I'm in 60/40 power mode, so I have 60% of the power going to the front. Oh yeah, you can feel a little bit of that weight reduction thanks to that carbon hood on this Circuit Edition. Oh yeah, it's scrubbing a little wide here because I'm in that 60/40 mode. Push a quick button, now I'm at 50/50. Oh yeah, you can instantly feel that. And now I'm gonna go ahead and go 70/30, which is super fun into 4th gear. This car has automatic rev matching, so I don't need to do the heel towing myself. Push wide on this Apex. Oh yeah, I could definitely feel the rear end stepping out. It's amazing how much this car changes character from 60/40 to 70/30. It's so cool. This is a really tight turn here. Taking a lot of speed here. Let it go wide. Oh, the steering, it was good on the road, but it is better on the racetrack. When you come off center in this car, it loads up and you can just communicate with it. It tells you everything you need to know about what's happening. Oh yeah, this Circuit Edition is great. The Core Edition was good, but Circuit is really cool. This is such a track weapon. If you take this to an autocross, you are going to be an autocross superstar in this car. And you can get the rear out too. Oh, this is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, so now that I've driven the GR Corolla in its Core and its Circuit trims today, I'm finally getting a go in the Morizo Edition. Now, as we've talked about, this gets more torque. There's no back seat, so this is so much lighter than the regular GR Corolla. And we're gonna find out whether or not a little bit of weight savings and a little bit more torque really makes as big of a difference as Toyota says. Because on paper, you gotta look at that and be like, well, you know, why didn't they give it more power? Why didn't they strip even more out? I mean, they stripped the back seats out, but let's find out, shall we? We're in 50-50 mode, into second, into third. Oh my God, I can already tell I'm at the end of the gear here. I can already tell, woohoo! I feel, oh my God, it's so much lighter. You can feel it through these corners. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's so light. Oh my goodness. I'm getting around these corners. This is way more speed than I was carrying in the other car with the Pilot Super Sports. These Cup 2s are so grippy. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm a gear higher than I was here in the other cars. Wow. Downshifting, don't need to rev match. The car will do it itself. Going through, oh my God, I am carrying so much more speed in the Morizo thanks to those Cup 2 tires. I was in third here, now I'm all the way into fourth easily. Downshift, oh, I love this corner. This is one of my favorite ones. Carrying it through the downhill. Oh my God, it's so fizzy. The steering is so light. I'm gonna go ahead and put it into 30-70 mode. That's gonna give me 70% of torque to the rear. Downshift as I take this big corner. Oh, I feel the difference there. I love the drive modes where you can go 50-50, 60-40, or in this case, 30-70. You really feel the differences here. I'm going through this big corner. Oh, the rear steps out so nicely. I can feel it all through the wheel. This is the greatest hot hatch I've ever driven. Oh, I can drift it. Oh, I'm getting the rear end out. Oh, and my lap is over already. I'm so sad. My hands are genuinely trembling. I promise you viewers, this is not me like pretending on this. My hands are trembling. I just did this racetrack in the Core and Circuit Edition models, which were a lot of fun. But then I stepped into this Morizo Edition and my hands are shaking. So if you have to ask me now, having driven all three back to back to back on a racetrack in a row, if the Morizo Edition is really worth $50,000, because that's what it costs, my easy answer is yes. My hands are trembling because this is the best hatchback I've ever driven. The end. All right, so that was the 2023 Toyota GR Corolla, and I'm sure at this point you're dying to know how much this amazing 3-cylinder turbo all-wheel drive hot hatchback costs. So the one I've showed you here in black is the base Core Edition. That's going to run you $35,900 base, but you are going to have to add the performance package for $1,180 to get the limited slip front and rear differentials. The technology package is another $770, and the cold weather package is $500. That gets you heated front seats and a heated steering wheel. It's going to be available in ice cap or the black that you see here, or for $425 you can get supersonic red. red. That's the color I would go ahead and go for. But if you're going to add all of those packages, I think you might as well step up to the Circuit Edition, which is limited to only the 2023 model year. I cannot get Toyota to admit what trim they're going to replace that with next year. It might just go by a different name. Toyota kind of does that too. Remember the Lexus Fuji Edition, or it was the Track Edition, then it was the Fuji Edition. I think it might do something like that. There are no options on the Circuit Edition because it comes standard with the front and rear limited slip differential. So if you're going to get those, I think you might as well just try and get that Circuit Edition. It's available in ice cap for free, or heavy metal for $425, or supersonic red for $425. Finally, the Morizo Edition, limited to only 200 units for the 23 model year, and I think they're probably going to do 200 units for 24 as well. They have not specified that as of yet. $49,900, that is a lot of money. We are encroaching on 6-cylinder super territory, where you're getting a lot more power in a much more comfortable, livable sports car that's also a 2-seater. So when you're cross-shopping these two Toyota sports cars, you might be thinking, well, maybe I want the Supra. And here's how I'm going to tell you whether or not to get the Morizo Edition. If you live on the racetrack or you're a serious collector, get the Morizo Edition. It feels so special with all of that weight reduction, with those Pilot Cup 2s. I did not think it was going to feel worth $50,000, but it really, really did. It was as fun as almost any sports car I've driven. So I know it's a lot of money to spend on a Corolla, but the Morizo Edition is the most special of the three that I drove. I'm really hoping that for next year, what Toyota will do is replace the Circuit Edition. They'll keep the core, and you can get the limited slip diffs if you want, but they'll replace the core with something that's more close to the Morizo, but with a back seat, because I think losing the back seat is going to be huge for a lot of people looking at this car. But let me know what you think of the GR Corolla down in the comments. Would you buy this over a Hyundai Elantra N, which is much cheaper, but only has front-wheel drive and less power, or the upcoming Honda Civic Type R, which has more power than this, but is only front-wheel drive, and we do not yet know the price. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave a like, subscribe to this channel, and ring the notification bell if you really enjoyed this. And if you want to read more about the GR Corolla, be sure to check out carbuzz.com. I'll see you next time.